Extra security precautions are underway outside the Fulton County, Georgia jail ahead of Donald Trump's planned surrender. The former president is expected to turn himself in this afternoon as he faces more than a dozen charges in the state's election interference investigation. A special agent for the Secret Service's Atlanta field office says they're working with local law enforcement to ensure there is safety while allowing the normal legal process to continue. House Republicans may soon be investigating the Georgia DA who launched a criminal probe against former President Donald Trump. CNN now reporting the House Judiciary Committee is expected to open a congressional investigation into Fulton County District Attorney African-American Fonnie Willis, and it could happen as soon as today. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Score big on sleep and savings during Mattress Firm's best sale of the year. Save up to $700 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable beds and get a $300 instant gift, good towards pillows and more.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It looks like former USC star Reggie Bush is willing to make his lawsuit against the NCAA a civil rights issue. At a press conference yesterday at the Coliseum, Bush announced his plans to sue the NCAA for defamation of character. By his side was noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who Bush hired to lead his legal team. Crump has a ton of experience with high-profile cases after representing the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Trayvon Martin. Bush said the NCAA made false allegations about him when the organization claimed he had a play-for-pay arrangement at USC from 2002 to 2005. The NCAA stripped Bush of his Heisman Trophy and his collegiate records after learning he had access to improper benefits while at USC. There's a whole lot more to this story. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule. 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. With hopes that black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis. First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing every single day, giving thanks, giving praise, asking for blessings from the Most High, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and getting it going. We do have a lot to talk about. I know I say that every day, but it's extra today. I hope you guys know the deal. If you're new, welcome in. Hour one, we go local, the left coast, California, and parts around here. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do typically a deep dive on a topic or with a person of interest. Today is no exception. And we'll have a little extra something with some information about an amazing basketball event as part of our second hour, along with a check-in from Dr. Melina Abdullah, who will update us on the actions of the LA City Council regarding the LAPD on yesterday. And she's got a lot to say about that. Hour three, we'll be hearing from Dr. Regina Lark. Her book is Emotional Labor: Why a Woman's Work is Never Done and What to Do About It. All of the unpaid burdens that we as women carry around, and how we can learn to be paid for our work or let it go. Looking forward to that conversation. I think I'm definitely a candidate to learn and benefit from that book. All right. And right now, though, we have a different angle on the local, and that's because, you know, so many times we focus on the city of Los Angeles, and we forget about parts east, parts west, parts south. We don't forget. We just don't amplify as much as we could and should. And today we will do just that. In fact, I think we're doing a bit of that this week, because on Friday, Attorney Carrie Harper will be with us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk about the Winco case. Ooh, crazy developments there, right? Remember the woman that was thrown down in front of the Winco? And today we'll be focusing, and she also has a case in Pasadena, so we'll have some information there as well. And today we're focusing on parts east for a minute, and there's a whole lot to unpack in this conversation. You know this guy, he's like a unofficial contributor to KBLA. He's a journalist, a producer, a film documentarian, and a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. He's host of the award-winning show, The Conversation Live. It's a talk show, and he has columns on race and social justice in the LA Progressive. James Farr, welcome back.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you so much for having me here this morning.
Absolutely, live and in studio, so jump on the YouTubes. It's youtube.com, KBLA 1580, and you can see us. And we're looking kind of fancy today, so in case you care about stuff like that, you should be quite happy. Joined by another guest who has, I'm sure, quite a few details that he can fill in for us. He's a 2020 CAALA Trial Lawyer of the Year Finalist. He's principal and lead attorney at Romero Law, a litigator who served as a staff instructor, and he has been rated AV preeminent by Martindale Hubbell, having been ranked at the highest level of professional excellence for his legal expertise. Attorney Alan Romero, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let me get that mic just a little closer. Gotta talk like it's like you're a rapper, I always say.
You got it.
So, let's not bury the lead, James. We know about the L.A. County Sheriff gangs.
We do.
We've heard murmurings about the possibility of LAPD gangs, but never have I heard about police gangs in Pasadena.
Well, I don't think that should be a surprise to you, Dominique. Should be a surprise to any of your listening audience. Culture permeates, right? If it's working in one system, it's very likely that it will show up in others. And I've been tracking this case and this incident for quite some time, and it's just now coming to light through a lawsuit that was filed by Mr. Romero on behalf of his client, Lieutenant Sammy Da Silva, who I might add is, when you think about, and this is going to be a different spin, right? Like, I don't normally come here talking positively about some of the good things that officers do in community, right?
Although, to be fair, when they do good things, it should be recognized. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Absolutely. He's Da Silva's that officer in the community. He's the guy that community members can trust, feel safe with. He's fair. 27-year career in this department. And believe it or not, he's the former president of the Pasadena Police Officers Association. So it's
that's a tough one for me, because for me, most of those police associations are pretty much cartels.
Perhaps, and perhaps that there's some validity to that, right? And I wouldn't argue.
But I know you're a big Virgo energy here, so you're going to have every detail of this case if you're following it, and that's what we want. So you're saying the guy has that community policing, he has that community relationship, and former police association president.
Well, I think what's interesting in that, if we kind of carve that out, who better knows what's going on in this department than the former president of the Police Officers Association? So the fact that he has come forward with very, very strong allegations, and the assault that he suffered at the hands of another lieutenant, the harassment, the discrimination, all of those are bad in and of itself, right? They're horrible. And in fact, the assault should have been criminally referred over to the district attorney. It's what he's uncovered in terms of these financial crimes and fraud involving the use of public funds. That's something that I think is really going to be a watershed moment. Will potentially open up the department to even more scrutiny and possible federal level investigation. And so, Pasadena is not like any other city. A lot of folks think the police keep us safe, right? That's just an idea.
You mean a lot of folks in Pasadena?
A lot of folks in Pasadena.
Got it, yeah.
But, in community, folks north of the 210, there's a 30, 40-year history of police heavy-handedness, police killings, police, botching up investigations on homicides. I mean, there's just a trough of information, and I'm working to bring all of that forward in the coming stories in LA Progressive.
Attorney Romero, you, I see in your bio here, you're a board-certified behavior analyst, which is really interesting. It sounds random, but what we're talking about here is it's relevant to this case, right? I would think, because what I've seen, at least with the sheriff's department, a lot of times these kinds of issues, whether it's law enforcement gangs or internal corruption, come to light when officers sue fellow officers and or the department that they're working for.
Yes, and there's a very strong behavioral element to that. And what happens is you have individuals who are within the organization who support and protect the organization, and at some point something happens and they have to make an internal decision, an internal calculus, that this has gone too far, that they can't get any remedy within the department, within administrative means, and they have to go externally and speak to someone like me and file a lawsuit and hope that the courts will afford them the justice that the departments have denied them.
And I mean, when De Silva came to you with this case, what was your reaction?
Disbelief, of course. These are pretty, egregious, allegations of egregious conduct within the department, and we verified them to the best extent we could. And some of the allegations made, such as officer-on-officer violence on duty that was essentially ratified by the department, they're not going to be able to talk their way out of that one. That one kind of, made the decision for us in terms of filing.
Mm. And when you talk about, these types of lawsuits, I think one of the things that we hear from law enforcement is this is just a disgruntled employee, somebody mad they didn't get a promotion, somebody mad they were not, in with the cool kids. And so I guess I'm going back to your behavior analyst hat and also your attorney hat. What makes you confident that's not the case? This is not just some guy mudslinging.
Well, as with most slander, there's an element of truth to it. There's a kernel of truth. Are these people, not getting promotions? Well, yes, because they're whistleblowers and they're being retaliated against. Are these people not part of the cool kids group? Well, absolutely, because people who stand up and take a stand in favor of justice, in favor of the community, and against their department are ostracized. Friends that have been lifelong friends don't talk to them anymore. Their careers are over. Their friendships are over. To a large extent, their lives are over. And I have to look at that in the larger context of whether or not this is a believable claim, whether or not we have probable cause to bring a lawsuit in Superior Court. And this is one that I felt very strongly about. I felt very strongly about our client, that I believed him. And I think the fact that he was assaulted on duty by another cop and effectively nothing happened to that officer. If you or I assaulted someone at work, we'd be fired on the spot. If you or I assaulted a police officer, we'd be charged criminally. None of that happened here.
I'm looking forward to hearing the granular details of what's happening in this case specifically and what are the implications for the department as a whole. We'll look at that when we come forward with attorney Alan Romero and journalist James Farr, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with the patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
Labor Day savings start now at Lowe's. Get up to an additional $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances. And save $100 off select laundry pairs, priced $1,396 or more. Plus, pick up the latest DeWalt PowerStack 20-volt max 5 amp hour battery kit and get a select Bear tool free. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 8/30. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details. While supplies last.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, It's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Right now, we are back to Dominique DePrima, along with journalist James Farr and attorney Alan Romero, and they're live in studio, KBLA 1580 on YouTube. If you want to see us, love to invite you in. We're talking about what's happening with the Pasadena Police Department in general, and this specific, Attorney Romero, would you categorize this as a whistleblower case?
This is a quintessential whistleblower case by an officer against his department.
So what exactly happened? Give me the basics of the story.
The basics is we have a gentleman, Sam DeSilva. I met him years ago. He's a very community-involved officer, great guy. And he came back to me and he said, I've got a story for you. And the story was effectively that two things primarily. One, that he was assaulted at work, that he was kicked in the knee by a superior officer. It resulted in an injury where he had to have knee surgery, and that superior officer was not being punished, and that the same superior officer, lieutenant by the name of Russo, was engaged in large-scale fraud and theft and misuse of public funds, and they reported these things to the department. The department effectively did nothing. There were approximately 5 internal affairs investigations into this Russo, but because he was a part of an alternative power structure within the department known as the Good Old Boys Club, that effectively he was shielded from prosecution, even though DeSilva wanted this office lieutenant prosecuted, and he was shielded and held immune, and effectively for all the fraud and theft and assaulting another officer, resulting in great bodily injury, got a 40-hour suspension, which is basically a week off of work as a result.
Alternative power structure, is that like alternative facts? And when you say good old boys, what is that?
So, two-part question. So the first part is that alternative power structure is the best term that I can come up to represent the fact that in these departments, the people who are the chief and who are supposed to be in charge aren't always in charge. There are people, sometimes it's gangs in departments, sometimes it's a power structure like we have here in Pasadena, where there are mostly white males, almost exclusively white males, who dictate who will be promoted, who will get certain assignments, and who will be punished and who will be immune for acts of violence on the street. And that's what we have here.
And the good old boys?
The good old boys is what the officers, primarily African-American officers and officers of color, such as our client, refer to this alternative power structure within the Pasadena Police Department. They've been known by that term, the Good Old Boys Club, for 20, 30 years.
Because that's one of those terms we hear thrown around. James Farr, you have spent a lot of time as a journalist covering the Pasadena Police Department. Tell me what's different about this case.
What's different about this case, first of all, is that it did come forward. And that's, as we were saying earlier, you don't typically see that. But, I'm exploring the idea. I mean, gang is one thing. I know Alan may not necessarily agree with that definition. It seems more like an organized crime syndicate, kind of shadowy.
That's what gangs are.
Well,
Okay, is the mafia a gang? If they weren't Italian, they would be.
Well,
or Irish. I don't know. I'm not an expert on
language,
the mafia.
right? It's language. We glorify organized crime.
Right. It's like the former sheriff of L.A. said they were cliques.
Right. They're not really gangs. They're
social
they're
clubs.
cliques.
But from my understanding, just what I know of gangs, which I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I've been in the urban peace movement for a long time. And as far as I know, clica is another name for gang.
Sure. It's and Alan and I have interviewed others and subject experts on this. You explore the idea that this is a parallel power structure. So while
whatever you want to call it,
right. So while the leadership may not self-identify as a clique,
they're never going to self-identify. Oh, we're a criminal enterprise. We're a gang. Who's going to say that unless you're literally a Blood or a Crip?
Right.
No one's going to say that.
Right.
Or, Mexican mafia. I don't even know if they consider themselves a gang. Who knows?
Right. But we see, when we look at the independent report and investigation to the Anthony McClain case, which we talked about here on your show some time ago.
Yes, we did.
And it now provides a lot more context to, it's not just an idea that things may be happening within the department. Now you kind of have a roadmap, if you will, of how an investigation can show up artificial, kind of rushed, insufficient. We see officers in the last few years who have been stopped by other law enforcement agencies flat out intoxicated and drunk. We've seen officers bail from their vehicle, display weapons, leave their minor child. I mean, we could go on and on and on about incidents where the public may say, well, why do these guys or ladies still have a job? Just recently, we saw officers in our department caught drinking.
Yeah, I
on
remember
the job, right?
It was a videotape, right?
It was a videotape,
It was like
right.
some kind of barbecue or something. You sent me that.
Yeah, and so, I had invited, the last time I was here, I was expecting to have a sit down with our police chief, and he blew through the stop sign and didn't show up. So
right.
There doesn't seem this urgency, right? And let's say perhaps the chief didn't know, right? He's new. He's just finding out what's going on.
Right, because you guys get a new police chief every week over there.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And so perhaps he's been advised and informed by members of this good old boys club, which De Silva articulates in his lawsuit. And he may not be having all of the information, but, this is a 30-year practice of officers in leadership positions, and so
what makes you say Pasadena Police Department has a 30-year practice of this kind of discrimination? I'll call it gang activity if you won't. Cliques,
corruption,
violent social clubs.
I mean, we could go as far back as Michael Zinzan losing his eye to Pasadena police officers. We can go contemporarily to the Anthony McClain investigation, and every stop in between. Officers who should have never been in a uniform. And then once they're in that uniform, certain things happen and they are protected.
Yeah. The police chief, Eugene Harris, of course, he's not going to say even if he does have all the information, to me, this is a bit of a quandary in these kinds of cases, because if a police chief or sheriff says, oh yeah, we have a gang problem in our department, they immediately lose the rank and file, right?
Essentially, yes, that's what happens. Usually you've seen, especially in the sheriff's department, I've been heavily involved in litigation against the sheriff's department, that any criticism of the organization will absolutely do that, eliminate the support of the rank and file. When you're a sheriff, for example, that cuts off a lot of the fundraising and political support. So essentially, in any organization, any politically powerful organization, there is an inherent need and compulsion to protect the entity. And it's self-defense, and it's harmful to the community. But yes, that's exactly what happens.
I mean, I remember our former sheriff here, Villanueva, saying, oh, there are no gangs, but I've eliminated them, which is, I don't have a drug problem, but I've gone to rehab. It doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, how our current sheriff, and this is just an example because it's a parallel kind of situation, Sheriff Luna saying he's set up a task force, to look into the sheriff gangs, but yet we can't apparently compel them to show us whether or not they have tattoos. So how do you, and really this is for both, Attorney Romero and journalist Farr, how do you get any kind of accountability from inside these structures when leadership is, in fact, more or less, their hands tied?
Well, what some in the community have asked for is the Department of Justice, an outside agency. Even our former mayor, Bill Perperian, 5 years ago said on my program that it is time for a federal investigation to come into the department. In this case, Chief Harris, his response is a canned response, which is, for some it's a dog whistle. For others, they may say he's circling the wagon. But to publicly say anything less than I'm open to a federal investigation, someone else coming in with fresh eyes. But his response has been, we're going to self-investigate these allegations. And so what that says is the Good Old Boys Club is going to investigate the Good Old Boys Club.
In the tradition of Daryl Gates. We've got news, traffic, and sports right now, and then continue the conversation. Interested to hear what the new mayor says and more on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City African-American Mayor Eric Adams is returning to New York City today after spending several days in Israel. Adams met with local and national leaders, learned about Israeli police and food technology, and discussed efforts to combat anti-Semitism. Yesterday, Adams got a first-hand look at police drone technology being used in Israel. The fate of the so-called Texas floating border wall is now in the hands of a federal judge. The system of buoys floating in the Rio Grande has been called a political stunt by its critics. A federal judge Tuesday rejected the Texas argument that the buoy border was needed to repel an invasion and said partisan politics will not affect his final ruling. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said he plans to take the fight over the buoys to the Supreme Court. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Score big on sleep and savings during Mattress Firm's best sale of the year. Save up to $700 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable beds and get a $300 instant gift, good towards pillows and more.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. It looks like former USC star Reggie Bush is willing to make his lawsuit against the NCAA a civil rights issue. At a press conference yesterday at the Coliseum, Bush announced his plans to sue the NCAA for defamation of character. By his side was noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who Bush hired to lead his legal team. Crump has a ton of experience with high-profile cases after representing the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Trayvon Martin. Bush said the NCAA made false allegations about him when the organization claimed he had a play-for-pay arrangement at USC from 2002 to 2005. The NCAA stripped Bush of his Heisman Trophy and his collegiate records after learning he had access to improper benefits while at USC. There's a whole lot more to this story. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Extreme heat can make you very sick and can be deadly. For Californians 65 and over, it's important to have a plan. Ask your healthcare provider if your medications affect your ability to cool down. Know the signs of heat illness and stroke, as well as the location of your nearest cooling center or air-conditioned space. And if you have loved ones over 65, be sure to check in on them on hot days. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and it's powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Do appreciate you. I'm James Farr of The Conversation Live, and the LA Progressive is with us. Attorney Alan Romero. Hey, I'm honored, a fifth-generation Angelino who's a descendant of Aztec Emperor Montezuma. That's pretty dope on your mom's side. That's the ancestors are in the studio for sure right now. So we're talking about the Pasadena Police Department and the case that you brought on behalf of Sammy De Silva, who is a former lieutenant, or is he currently still a lieutenant?
Yes.
He's still a lieutenant. Tricky. So I asked James, how do we ever get accountability if, the sheriffs, the police chiefs are always going to dodge these questions and say, as this chief said, oh, there's no evidence of gang activity. Because otherwise, they're going to be Willie Williams. They're going to be toast as far as fellow officers and any credibility with rank and file. So how do we get accountability?
Well, the simple answer is the only path to justice is through civil litigation, through attorneys like myself and working with community partners such as yourself and with Mr. Farr. We have to file these cases and through civil discovery, obtain documents such as a document, internal affairs investigation from the Sheriff's Department, which confirmed the existence of the executioner's gang in Compton, that they were engaged in racketeering at the station. But what happens, we talked about doublespeak, we had now Under Sheriff April Tardy, who testified at the Community Oversight Commission that yes, there's a gang, yes, they're engaged in racketeering, and then a few months later at trial said, that wasn't true, I don't know where that came from, and none of that's true. There is no gang, there is no racketeering. She was able to do that because there's no repercussions. When police officers, especially police officers in authority positions, lie on the stand, they're not held accountable, they're not fired, they're actually rewarded and promoted as Under Sheriff Tardy was. Why
Why are there no repercussions? Is it the police officer's Bill of Rights? Is it just we look the other way, a wink and a smile? Like, why? Why are there no repercussions?
My personal opinion, based on my personal experience, is that the courts will not hold these people accountable. Whenever there's a tie in court and it's not clear who's telling the truth, the judges will almost exclusively err on the side of caution, give the benefit of the doubt to the police, and they'll say in court, why would the sheriff lie? Why would this deputy lie?
Right. So it's almost like a de facto extension of qualified immunity. Like you get a pass if you're law enforcement.
Yes, in fact,
in courts.
Absolutely. And I've had judges come after me and say, Romero brings hoax cases. There are no gangs in the sheriff's department. Meanwhile, the legislature has passed Penal Code 13670 outlawing law enforcement gangs. A deputy at Compton pleaded guilty to racketeering charges, federal charges, but I'm the one that's retaliated against for bringing the cases.
And not to mention the whole report coming out of Loyola Marymount University, which clearly documents, and even the video we were talking about, James, where they're drinking while in uniform. I mean, it looks like they're at a cookout, but no consequences, right?
Well, because of the protections of the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights and personnel issues, the public generally doesn't know, right? So even if you and I find out through a source, through media, we could report it all day long, but the department itself will never confirm what an actual disciplinary action is. And so we see.
So we can say we don't know if they've been disciplined, but they're still on the job, right?
Yeah, they're clearly still on the job. It doesn't work like that in any other.
I mean, I know some air personalities do drink on the job, so maybe that's not a good. But anything where you're holding a deadly weapon, and driving a vehicle.
In that instance, I mean, it was driving our vehicles, right? It's officers. Gun safety 101 is you probably shouldn't drink or do drugs while you are in possession of a gun, right? But the fact that they took time out of their shift, we don't know, and because the department won't fully be transparent as to what the discipline is and what other things were violated, we don't know, did they take themselves out of service? Officers often
LOL.
Often complain about, staff shortages, right? These are all real things that they present to us to increase that 5% budget increase, right? We need more, we need more, we need more. But here we are. They've taken themselves out of service. They're drinking on the job. They're slamming shots of tequila. And then they have to go out and have contact with the public the rest of the night. So not only is that a public safety issue, it also puts other cases, anything that they potentially touch that night could be contaminated.
Right. And speaking of the constant crying about needing more money for the budget, part of what came to light through this whistleblower case of Sam De Silva is actually financial corruption, and we have seen that in other departments where overstating the number of hours worked or exaggerating the work that was done in order to get more money from grants, from the budget. These cases I read about pretty frequently across the country, whether it's through seizure of goods that then go to underwrite a department, or whether it's through overstating hours.
It's something I see with some frequency. Another example, and I'll get back to Pasadena in a moment, was in Compton. One of my cases uncovered widespread overtime fraud by members of the executioner's deputy gang in Compton. No one was punished. There was no ramifications. The city of Compton, a very impoverished city, their taxpayers paid for hundreds of thousands of dollars in hours of overtime by detectives, which never took place. The only net result was the shot caller of the group, a gentleman by the name of Jaime Juarez, got a promotion. My whistleblower was demoted. Pasadena, same thing. Sam De Silva uncovered tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of misuse of public funds for DUI checkpoints when the officers were being paid to man the checkpoints from state funds. That never happened. They would hang out and socialize at the department, watch videos, socialize with Russo. There was effectively no consequences for this. These funds were never paid back because there's no accountability. Sheriff's Department, Pasadena PD, most police departments in this country. It's sad but true. Meanwhile,
I mean, you look at LA. We just gave a 13% raise to the LAPD, and they're taking up a quarter of the general fund. And if there's that kind of fraud going on, financial fraud, we could certainly save taxpayers some dollars. Let's go to Ronnie calling us from Orange County. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Dominique, and good morning to your guest. Any thoughts or questions when I listened just now had been answered, so I'm going to just be very specific. In Orange County, we had a sheriff on citizen and sheriff on sheriff shooting at Cook's Corner, which is about 10 miles from where I live. The news agencies bent over backwards last night to say, this is a good place. We don't have these problems here. And, Dominique, I call in regularly and speak about the shootings, the mass shootings in Orange County because they're underreported. But that's not my question. I could get to my question quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The guest today, he did answer my question about filing documents on the sheriffs and the PDs. My reason for calling was I felt that we need to use a black press just like we did it with Emmett Till to get the truth out, okay, and continue reporting it and repeatedly reporting it. Dominique, in a past radio life with you, I continue to talk about steroids. This sheriff yesterday went looking for his wife.
Yeah, and it's a question that I've heard brought up by people with more knowledge of what goes on in these departments than I have. We'll continue this conversation when we come forward. Should we have drug testing for deputies and police officers, especially when they are involved with shootings or fraudulent activity, and in particular steroids, because we all know what a roid rage is. And this is something Ronnie and I are in agreement on. It seems to me that should be a baseline, but I'll get your take when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you looking for a tax preparation firm that understands the unique financial challenges of African American business owners? Then look no more. Wealth Management Financial Advisors can prepare and file your individual and business taxes. They're committed to providing their clients with the best possible service. See how they make the greatest impact on your taxes. Find them at wealthmanagementlb.com or call them at 562-427-8877. That's 562-427-8877.
When it comes to special needs educational and health resources, Special Needs Network has you covered. On Saturday, August 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Jane Addams Park in Lawndale, Special Needs Network and California Assemblywoman Tina McKinnon invite you and your entire family for a fun-filled day at a back-to-school and health fair. Featuring music, live performances, exhibitions from your favorite professional LA sports teams, a petting zoo, pony rides, a kids zone, and professional haircuts for kids and teens. Get critical early identification and intervention resources, health and dental screenings, bags of fresh fruits and vegetables, and an opportunity to win fantastic prizes. Free backpacks and school supplies while they last for students, and a chance to win a free cell phone or tablet from TrueConnect with an EBT card. Visit SNNLA.org or on Facebook or Instagram at Special Needs Network.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? You might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no-to-say-no.com.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose America.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Joined in studio this morning by journalist James Farr and attorney Alan Romero. Should cops be drug tested? That's what I asked. And particularly what Ronnie from Orange County wanted to point out is the steroid situation.
I've had a case or two. I've had one specific case where there's allegations of illegal steroid use by Inglewood PD sergeant. However, usually in these cases, you see a lot of alcohol abuse, whether it's DUIs. De Silva has one or two allegations of Pasadena PD officials, high-ranking officials who were let go from DUI stops because of their rank. You tend to see less drug abuse, more alcohol abuse with these types of problem police officers.
Your thoughts, James?
It goes back to the collective bargaining agreement. And so
yeah,
that
well,
has to be undone.
And that's why I say to me that these police associations are more like cartels than unions. Not just to say it, but if I am drinking on the job and endangering the lives of my fellow, radio people and actors, if I am, carrying a gun and endangering people's lives, if I commit a crime, a murder, fraud, my union ain't covering it up for me.
No.
SAG-AFTRA, get you a lawyer, you're on your own. They're not going to say, we categorically, Dominique, blah, blah, blah. Nope. There's no radio person's Bill of Rights. So let's circle back to the current mayor of Pasadena for a moment. We talked about the response of the police chief. You talked with the mayor. What was the mayor's response?
I asked the mayor just around the time that this lawsuit was filed, but before it was made public, if he was aware of any gangs in the department. And he said, if he were aware, he said he wasn't aware, but if he were aware, he would bring it to the attention of the police chief. He would bring it to the attention of the city manager. And he said that he spoke on behalf of all of his council members, that there's no place for this type of activity and it needs to be rooted out. What no one has said is if these allegations that Attorney Romero and Lieutenant Da Silva have brought forward are in fact true, right, which we believe them to be true, what is the accountability? Like, what will happen to these errant officers? Like, will they be fired? Are they going to recommend prosecution? Again, these are activities and behavior, right? They're bad actors in this situation that if you or I or anyone else in the general public was slightly accused of these things, right? Yeah. We'd be washed and railroaded. So, I think, listening to folks in the community, and our mayor, who has been in office just now 3 years, but has been on the council for over 20 years, and a Pasadena resident, the people are tired of hearing the same old story time and time again.
Yeah, they're really talking points, Oh, there's no evidence of this activity. Oh, well, if I knew about it. To me, if I'm the mayor of the major city, and as you pointed out earlier, there is a history of problem behavior inside that department, and I sit up there and say, I didn't know anything about any of this, it looks like I haven't done my due diligence about the city that I have been elected to represent.
I think it really comes back to this, and doing the research, doing the investigation into this story and many others. I've had an officer tell me, James, who's more afraid of the police than a black man? He said a police officer, because we know what we are capable of doing. We know where the dirt is. We know what the culture is. So on some level, I think a lot of times with our electeds who, and I'm not suggesting our mayor has any questionable past or anything, but they're afraid of the police.
Yeah. Well, it's given Chris Dorner, which is, of course, the extreme version of this, sure. Right? And I think one of the reasons why, and I've repeatedly said everything he did was terrible, but it's one of the reasons why he continues to get sympathy is because even though his reactions were problematic,
right,
the things he was pointed out have been pointed out repeatedly.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting any officer take that course of action.
Of course not.
Right.
Yeah, you don't get to kill people.
No.
On duty or off. What does justice look like for Da Silva?
Well, I think justice, unfortunately, in the courts, we are limited to the remedies we can get in court. Unfortunately, that's an amount of money. So can you put back someone's life, someone's career with the department, long period of time that Da Silva's been there? No, but I think part of the justice process is, ask the mayor, you have a lieutenant by the name of Russo in your department who is engaged in workplace violence. How can you justify the fact that man still has his job? This man has been caught misusing public funds, violence on duty. How can you possibly justify the fact that that person is still in a command position in the Pasadena Police Department? And there's no answer for it. So this kind of lip service to the fact, we're investigating. If I knew about it, I would do something. And not to criticize the mayor, who I don't know personally, and I don't know where he's coming from, but there's just simply no justification for workplace violence. Like we're talking about Chris Dorner right now. I'm an anti-violent person. There's no justification for what happened and the fact this person still has their job at the Pasadena PD.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
When it comes to special needs educational and health resources, Special Needs Network has you covered. On Saturday, August 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Jane Addams Park in Lawndale, Special Needs Network and California Assemblywoman Tina McKinnon invite you and your entire family for a fun-filled day at a back-to-school and health fair. Featuring music, live performances, exhibitions from your favorite professional LA sports teams, a petting zoo, pony rides, a kids zone, and professional haircuts for kids and teens. Get critical early identification and intervention resources, health and dental screenings, bags of fresh fruits and vegetables, and an opportunity to win fantastic prizes. Free backpacks and school supplies while they last for students, and a chance to win a free cell phone or tablet from TrueConnect with an EBT card. Visit SNNLA.org or on Facebook or Instagram at Special Needs Network.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking about what's going on with the Pasadena Police Department, feel like I've talked about it over the years with various cases. And Attorney Carrie Harper will be joining us Friday. Not just she'll be talking about the throwdown case at the Winco, but also some of her work in the city of Pasadena. So, you know, I asked you what accountability looks like in court. James Farr, I mean, you've been covering the Pasadena Police Department and their shenanigans, sometimes in conjunction with the Altadena Sheriff's Department. Should they be under a consent decree? Do you think they should be under federal consent decree?
I raised that same question to our mayor in that same interview, and he said no.
He said no. What do you say, Attorney Romero?
I have mixed feelings. To a certain extent, I feel local governments should be responsible for their own affairs. But on the other hand, you know, I brought cases in the LA Superior Court, and the judges refused to hold the department accountable with respect to the executioners gang in Compton. And it took the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. to come out here and indict and get conviction, at least one conviction for racketeering against a member of the group, because local judges one particular judge in particular, refused to allow any accountability whatsoever.
The community is asking for a consent decree at this point. There's zero confidence.
Yeah. Well,
it has been completely
I'll join
eroded.
them in that. I don't see how you could, if you've got a pattern, what appears to be a pattern and practice of malfeasance, of fraud, of violence, harassing witnesses. I mean, I've interviewed Attorney Carrie Harper. I've interviewed couple of your police chiefs over the years, and to me it seems like there's a recurring issue in a relatively small city. I don't see how else you get any kind of accountability.
Not much has changed. I mean, I'll tell you a story. 25, 30 years ago, I got snatched up off the street by Pasadena PD, and they accused me of being a drug dealer.
Wow.
Wrong description just because of the color of my skin. So Pasadena PD has a long history of, let's say, racial insensitivity.
Time flies when you're on the radio. Tell us how to keep track of you and your work, James Farr.
You can read me over at the LA Progressive. This story will be out later on today. Twitter at James Farr Live and website at James Farr Live. You'll find all my handles.
LA Progressive, full of great stories. What do you want to leave us with this morning, Attorney Romero?
I'm here, so I went to law school to do. I'm so happy. I get to work with great people, meet great people like yourself, my clients, my staff, and I feel blessed to do this work, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for having me.
You could be richer, though.
I'm
I'm
doing
just
all right.
saying, when you do civil rights, it comes with a lot of other stuff, right? It comes with a certain amount of harassment, a certain amount of exposure.
I've lost a couple $1 million the last couple years doing these cases, but best money I ever spent.
30 seconds, James. What do you want to leave us with?
I want people to, especially in Pasadena, right, to pay attention to their department, to ask the mayor, to ask the council. And it's not just, as they say, it's the same old people. It's folks outside of our community that need to be better aware of the corruption, the culture, the existence of evilness sometimes within our departments in Pasadena and many other agencies. It's real. It's not made up.
And my phrase of the day, alternative power structure. Whoa. Think about that for a second. Journalist James Farr and attorney Romero, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic.
And we continue our conversations. We have so much going on today. About to give you something to smile about, a little basketball for your weekend. That's coming up on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City African-American Mayor Eric Adams